disease in human history has gripped us so tightly in its claws as cancer. It is a pandemic, lurking in the shadows of our genetic makeup, a stain, marring the very fibers of our being. In a desperate attempt to scour cancer's blemish, doctors have hacked away, poisoned with toxins and supercharged with radioactive energy, all in hopes of washing cancer away and leaving the cleansed human being alive. Our own cells will turn against us, robbing our bodies of the ability to function properly. The immune system has no way of combating this burrowing disease because when white blood cells pass the infected tissue, it registers as friendly flesh. Imagine you've spilt wine on your finest white linens. A scarlet stain permeates nearly the full length of the precious fabric. You can wash the linens all you want. Use the strongest soap, bleach, powders, and chemicals. Try as hard as you may. That cloth will never be returned to its original form. $1.5 million people are diagnosed with cancer each year. 600,000 cancer-related deaths occur each year. A number cannot measure the pain inherent in fighting a disease.
What is the most significant change you've experienced since your diagnosis?
I think I am able to really focus on celebrating every day of my life and being very grateful for what I do have every day of my life and appreciate the people in my life. And it has also made it so I am much more likely to let people help me because I'm a very independent person. I'm used to doing it all myself. And so I've had to let people help me through different aspects of recovery and treatment. And that's been a blessing for me as well as for the people that I let into my life.
Well, the treatments for this particular melanoma are not easy and have required a lot of travel. So physically, financially, almost anything you can name, there have been necessary changes in our life.
Well, probably the awareness of the danger of the sun and trying to hide from it, and still enjoy doing the things I like to do. I've kind of, now that I've gotten as old as I am, I have to be more careful, so I don't really go out sailing anymore, much as I regret that. And I've also, as part of aging, I'm not as strong as I used to be, even though I work out regularly and I do lift weights and do different things. I still have lost a lot of strength. It's difficult to lose the weight, so I'd like to lose about another 10 pounds if I could. I've lost quite a bit in trying in this about the last year. still like to lose about 10 more pounds.
How has cancer affected you emotionally?
I think I move through the stages of grief much faster because now I'm dealing with my 6th round of cancer. And so when you get a diagnosis, there are stages you go through of denial, grief, anger, and then acceptance. And so now that I've done it so many times, I just whip through them real quickly and move on and don't just focus on the grief part and the anger part of it. And some people have a hard time moving through those stages. So I'm very appreciative that I have been able to learn how to manage through those stages, because everybody has to go through those stages. You can't avoid those stages. You are going to go through them.
You can keep a sense of humor, and you can smile, and you can try not to cry, but you push those emotions back and they're going to come forward. Yes, nobody, it's not an easy road. It's not an easy battle.
I try to be very supportive. We've been married for over 60 years now. And we try to support it. We all have our various weaknesses. But you try to be supportive. You know.
Has it affected you financially at all?
Well, fortunately, I have very good insurance. I would probably make very different decisions if I didn't have good insurance. So fortunately, I haven't had to choose not to have treatment because of the financial impact. So it has hit me financially in the aspect of going for second opinions and travel.
And I've had 15 treatments out of town. The airline's $500 round trip each time, and the cost of hotel. Your insurance, nobody's insurance covers travel to get treatment.
Are there any other environmental factors you think maybe contributed to your diagnosis?
I don't know. Of course, the fact that all my grandparents were from Northern Europe would be a factor. Harriet's, although I grew up in the Chicago area, just north of Chicago. Harriet grew up in Savannah, Georgia. And but yet her parents her grandparents were from Germany and Ireland. So there was still that kind of Northern European inheritance. I don't know quite what
Fair skin.
Fair skin.
How has cancer affected your health? Do you have to be more cautious about anything?
I have focused a lot more on the toxins that are around me. I'm not sure how much impact they have on it, but when my hair grew back, I didn't dye it anymore because hair dye has toxins in it. I changed my laundry detergent to Arm & Hammer baking soda instead of Tide because there's less toxins in that. And I really focus on drinking lots of water and try to focus on exercise even when I don't feel like it, so that it helps bring my energy level back. I also balance the medicines that the doctors give me with a lot of vitamins and minerals. From a book on nutritional healing, I have found several things that help me feel better. I'm not sure if it reduces the chances of reoccurrence, but I feel better and I feel a little more in control of my recovery by taking the different vitamins and minerals.
I have to really make sure that I'm eating the right foods, that I'm eating enough of them, because I'm skinny and you don't want to lose weight. I try to eat healthful foods. I take vitamins. I make sure to exercise every day. I walk every day. Everything that I can do is aimed at increasing the ability of my immune system to fight this cancer.
Well, I try to not get get out in the sun that much. I would love to go sailing again, but I recognize the danger and the fact that I'm not very well getting old, and my balance is not as good as it should be. The strength is not bad, but I can't lift like with Dominic. We would go, I take him out sailing, we could lift the boats on and off the car, but I can't do that anymore. I don't have the strength.
And what kind of goals do you have now that you've been diagnosed?
I live life every day. I enjoy every day. I'm grateful every day. I thank God for who He made me into, and every day I pray that I will fulfill His mission for my life. I appreciate today as a gift. That's why we call it the present.
I realize that life is finite, and that when you get to be 82 years old, almost 83, you really don't have that long a life ahead of you, but you want it to be happy, fulfilling, and you really have to concentrate on living each day.
I think that you got to try it again to be positive. You know, don't get depression is a terrible thing, and you see a lot of people every day that are suffering from some form of depression, and it's important to be exercise, keep your body functions operating. Don't overindulge in food or drink and drugs. You have to be careful even what drugs that the doctors recommend. That they, some are more experimental, and they may not really, your body may not react to them the way some others, you know. It's a chance you take. If you don't need to take the drug, don't take it.
Arms around you. Arms around you.
The American Cancer Society's mission is basically to take care of 4 areas: research, education, advocacy, and service. That's where we focus our efforts, in those 4 distinct areas. And so we try to, you know, we can't be all things to all people, but we try to focus our efforts in those 4 areas.
Okay. And tell me a little about the history of the ACS.
Well, I don't know a tremendous amount about the history, but we, as I said, we've been around for 100 years. In the years that I've been a volunteer, and I've been a volunteer over 30 years, there's been a lot of changes over the years. We used to be a society that knocked on doors every year. We had a drive where you recruited a bunch of volunteers, and they took 20 homes, and you knocked on their door and you asked for a donation. And we did that for many, many years. The neighborhood walk, it was called. And then we got into more fundraising and different ways to be more effective with our resources, because that was a labor intensive. You had a lot of people having to cover a lot of area. So we tried to be smarter about how we spent our volunteer time in raising dollars. So then we started narrowing how we did it. And now we've narrowed it down to, we basically have 3 major fundraising events that we have throughout the United States and the world, as a matter of fact. The Relay for Life, which is the biggest single fundraising event in the world for any charity, Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, and our Balls and Galas program.
How did you get involved with Relay? Like, how did you hear about it?
Well, I never heard about it until all the way to a senior in high school. Basically, it was coming into the last semester, and a friend of mine was really involved with Relay, and she knew I was a survivor, and she said, "You should come out and do the survivor walk." And I was like, well, I never heard of Relay, and so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So I went there, and I was just amazed by the actual Relay event itself, how everything is there to honor and in memory of cancer survivors and those who lost their lives through cancer. So, and from that point on, basically applied to become a ROC scholar, which is reaching out Kids with Cancer scholarship. And so I got that, so I came to college and immediately started working with the committee, the Relay Committee on campus at UWF.
I do know that in 1985, that's when Relay for Life started, and that was started by a doctor, Dr. Gordy Klatt, and he wanted to find a cure for cancer, and so he ran for 24 hours around a track by himself. And the next year it grew and grew and grew, and now we have about 5,200 relays across the world.
The ACS employee has a very difficult job because they're working with hundreds of different volunteers. The employee can only do so much and has to cultivate relationships with volunteers of all different persuasions. And if, for example, in the state of Florida, we have I think there's about 400 or 500 paid employees at the American Cancer Society, somewhere in that number. We have about 400,000 volunteers that work in different ways, either through fundraising or patient services or advocacy. So the staff member is trying to work with that big number of people and trying to focus them and trying to help them achieve success in this fight against cancer.
After Relay's over, after the main event is over, what happens through the rest of the year?
Basically, we prep and get a new committee for next year, and we go ahead and start planning the next year one. It's basically we don't stop until cancer is done. We find a cure. So it's 365 all year long. It's a very time-consuming position, but it's the Relay. What symbolizes the actual fight is that cancer doesn't take a break. It's 24 hours. It's constant. So we're fighting 24/7 as well to counter that.
So the way that it was explained to me, and I think this kind of helps people, is that in order to do all of the research and the programs and the services that we want to do, we have one big goal. And that gets broken down into little pieces for each area, for each division, each region, and then all the way down to each event. So it's different all over based on kind of what your community can handle. In our area, in Escambia and Santa Rosa counties, we have 8 relay events, and those relays bring in our goal is at about $900,000. So we bring in close to $1 million right here just in relay. We also have a Making Strides Against Breast Cancer walk that brings in almost $500,000, and a gala ball, or gala, the Cattle Barons ball, that brings in, I think they're at almost $150,000 or just over. So it all depends on which areas, but the Panhandle is very strong.
Our expense ratio is about 72% of every dollar goes to mission, and about 28 cents is in overhead. That's a very good number when you look at other charities in the United States. Our goal by 2020, I believe, is to be 80-20. 80 cents of every dollar going to mission, 20 cents in overhead.
And how does the ACS minimize those costs?
Well, every year it's zero-based budgeting. Every year you start over. You don't start from a fixed position and then build on that. You start with nothing, and we look at what makes sense to spend our dollars on. And there are volunteers and paid staff members that go through these budgets very, very carefully to see where is the best use of our dollars. Fundraising over the last several years with the economy the way it's been has been very, very difficult. So it's caused the American Cancer Society to take hard looks at where we spend our dollars. And there's been significant reductions in different areas. There's been significant changes in how business is done to consolidate, to be more effective in the use of our paid staff, as well as the different other things we have to spend our money on.
Numbers fluctuate according to survivors in the area, how much money you raise, or how many people are on the committee, stuff like that. But other than that, each relay, no matter how big or small, it's going to produce the same results. And that's funding raising money, whatever size it is, and it's whatever, and the emotions are going to be the same. It's just, it's all there. That compassion will be the same.
Do you have any personal goals for the future of cancer? Just research, treatment, prevention?
Well, a cure would be nice. That would be my personal goal, if the cure for all cancers. I don't know how realistic that's going to be in the next few decades, but just to try to maintain compassionate care and help people through their process is my goal. It's a fascinating field, which actually is evolving so quickly. It makes it intellectually stimulating to be a part of cancer treatment in this day and age. I actually did not intend to be in oncology during medical school or even residency, but I was in New Orleans and I wanted at the time to concentrate on rheumatology, but after Hurricane Katrina, majority of the rheumatology department where I was training disappeared. So I ended up doing various electives in oncology. Kind of drew me in. It was sort of by accident, which I think serendipitously worked out for me, because it's a much more fulfilling field for me than I think some of the other things I thought about. But the reason is because it is evolving, it is getting better. Treatments are better, supportive care is better. So that's what kind of brought me into it.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you had a couple family members that had cancer.
With my mom and so.
Was that when you were younger?
Well, yeah. It was, in my 20s.
Yeah.
My mom dealt with breast cancer, my father dealt with colon cancer, and they're both long-term survivors. So I think that probably, woke up my eyes to what can be done with cancer instead of sort of my preconceived ideas before then that anyone with cancer was going to die. What I always assumed was a short death, but now that's been 15 years ago, and they're both cancer-free.
No disease in human history has gripped us so tightly in its claws as cancer. It is a pandemic, lurking in the shadows of our genetic makeup. A stain, marring the very fibers of our being. In a desperate attempt to scour cancer's blemish, doctors have hacked away, poisoned with toxins and supercharged with radioactive energy, all in hopes of washing cancer away and leaving the cleansed human being alive. This is put to better perspective when one considers the fact that cancer is more than just a part of us. It is us. Our own cells will turn against us, robbing our bodies of the ability to function properly. The immune system has no way of combating this burrowing disease, because when white blood cells pass the infected tissue, it registers as friendly flesh. Imagine you've spilt wine on your finest white linens. A scarlet stain permeates nearly the full length of the precious fabric. You can wash the linens all you want. Use the strongest soap, bleach, powders, and chemicals. Try as hard as you may, that cloth will never be returned to its original form. It's not ruined. It still works. It's not the same. Fortunately, you can buy new linens. Your body is a different story. It is meant to last the better part of a century, if you take care of it. While there are many diseases, including cancer, that may strike without warning, we can raise our odds by increasing awareness of harmful activities and avoiding them. This may sound like a simple task, but it has cost the National Cancer Society $5.2 billion per year. This money was spent funding research and awareness campaigns in order to lower mortality from cancer. The movement that began the landslide of scientific progress and widespread awareness was spawned by Sidney Farber and Mary Lasker. Their efforts paved the way for subsequent activists to further progress our ability to stave off cancer. We have a long way to go, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Many treatments are available which can relieve specific forms of cancer. Even elderly patients can withstand the radiation and chemical procedures offered. This is astounding in comparison to the primitive cancer treatments which maimed even the healthiest, strongest-bodied patients. 1.5 million people are diagnosed with cancer each year. 600,000 cancer-related deaths occur each year. A number cannot measure the pain inherent in fighting a disease. Only the survivors, victims, volunteers, and families of the diagnosed know the great toll that cancer can take on a human being.
Arms